what I learned on my trip to Ferguson. So I went back to Ferguson, America, and I got a chance to talk to some amazing young people while I was down there. And I wanted to share some of my thoughts with you about how we sort of move forward as a country after what's been devastating to both this country and to Ferguson, and I think now you can add Staten Island, New York to that, of where we've seen that Black lives matter a little bit less than everything else. First and foremost, let me start out by saying this. I am the biggest fan of a lot of these young organizers and these young people who every day for the past 130 some odd days have protested without ceasing, right? They fought for justice without ceasing. And this Christmas season, it's just so appropriate and so fitting that we honor them for what they've done in raising our awareness. But in raising our awareness, there's a couple of things that I heard when I was there that I think it's important that we talk about here at the Fowler Show. Fear. Fear is what I want to talk about. What I learned there was this ideal that there's mistrust. And anytime you have a community where there's mistrust, you have a larger problem. But now you have fear. There is a fear for law enforcement. And herein lies a problem with this ideal of fearing law enforcement. The job of law enforcement is to protect and serve the community. And so if law enforcement's job is to protect and serve, it is baffling to me that there's so much fear that exists between law enforcement and the police, law enforcement and the community. But beyond that point of the fear, it's also this level of like this sense of victimization that I really want to talk about, and I really want to address it. And if you're watching the show and you're African American or you're Hispanic and you happen to be a male, I want to talk to you tonight. What happened to Mike Brown and what happened to Eric Garner was neither their faults. What happened to Tamar Rice wasn't his fault. You've got to choose to make, you've got to make a choice to live your life, right? Whether you choose to live your life wearing a hoodie or you choose to live your life playing with a Nerf gun in your front yard. We cannot live in constant fear of the police, right? And this idea that people are afraid, and they've basically said that they feel as though it's their fault that this has happened. Like, oh, we've got to, the police, the stereotyping is so bad that I can't walk out my house with a hoodie on. Police need to fix this problem, not young people. It is a job of the police departments to do better policing. Better policing. Building relationships with community. Engaging community. I'm not going to indict all police because I'm not saying all police are bad. But there are those police out there who've made the choice to use fear as a method of policing. Fear is not a method of policing. Fear is what you call a method of fear. Policing is building community and using community and protecting and serving the community while also providing just fear and making the community safer. But the ideal that these young people are afraid of the police and their parents are afraid to allow them to go play means we have a problem, America. And we have a problem a lot deeper and a lot more. It's a lot deeper than, oh, we need body cameras. Body cameras is a Band-Aid for a larger problem. For years on end, police have used fear tactics to pillage and destroy African American, Latino, poor communities. They've created laws that destroy these communities, and now the police are using fear to destroy these communities. And we've got to reverse that. But we can only reverse that if and when police make the choice that they're going to engage with the community. But beyond just engaging with the community, it is also the job of elected officials, religious leaders, parents, to say we're going to take control of our community as well. And I think every child, every black boy, every white boy, every Asian boy, every purple boy, every blue boy should have the right to go out and play with a super soaker in their front yard. They should have the right to go out and wear a hoodie and not be afraid of it. And the fact that people live in this country and they're afraid to walk outside in the greatest country on earth means we have a severe problem. The fact that people who are protesting peacefully are tear gassed and shot with rubber bullets, America, we have a problem. And our problem is not just a Ferguson problem. Our problem isn't a Chicago problem. It's not a Washington, D.C. problem. It is an American problem. It's not a black problem. It's not a white problem. It's not a Hispanic problem. It's all of us problem. And we've got to work together to fix it. But we've got to make the choice to fix it first. And this Christmas season, let's make the choice to fix it. Let's make the choice to have real conversations. Let's put, in all communities across this country, let's have the novel ideal of putting police on one side of the table and young people on the other side of the table, and let's talk about our differences together, because if we talk about our differences together, we can fix them. America is not going to be easy, but no healing ever is easy. I got to tell you, a couple days ago, I had what's the best way to put it? I had a wart on my foot, right? And it was really, really, really painful. And I went to see my podiatrist. Thank God for some good health insurance. And what my podiatrist said is this. She said, the wart is there, and basically your body doesn't know it's there. Your body doesn't know the pain. Your body doesn't know it's there, but your nerves are feeling the pain. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put some medicine on the wart that will, force the wart to sort of blister, and your body will realize it's there, and then your body will start fighting against the blister, and in the meantime, they'll kill the wart. It's going to be painful for a couple weeks, and you're going to come back, we're going to cut off the blister, and hopefully we would have killed the wart, and your foot will go back to normal. So yes, she was right. After they put the blister on it, and they sort of, scraped it down, and they put the medicine in, and it blistered up, and it was really, really, really painful. But then, all of a sudden, the wart began to die. And when the wart began to die, my foot started to feel better. And I went back and she cut out the blister, she cut out the wart, and now my foot is back to normal. But there was a painful process. But that's what healing is about. Right now, all across our country, in various communities, there's a wart on our foot. And finally, this time around, the wart has become so painful that people are crying out for justice. And in certain situations, police are doubling down. Because when in doubt, double down. People are crying out. People are doubling down. That means now is the perfect time for healing. Now is the perfect time for this country to take a paramedic and an ambulance right to the emergency room. And it's time for that doctor to do the same thing she did to my foot, put the medicine on it that will cause the blister to flare up. But when it flares up, we will kill the wart. And the wart this time, America, is fear. The wart this time, America, is distrust. The wart this time, America, is this ideal that people will refuse to talk to each other. The wart this time is racism and bias. So let's work on fixing it. It's not going to be easy, but whatever is. When Abraham Lincoln made the Emancipation Proclamation, it wasn't easy. When Martin Luther King and Bayard Rustin and SNCC decided that they were going to march on Washington, it wasn't easy. When LBJ made the decision to force his own white members of his party who were absolutely racist to vote for the Civil Rights Act, it wasn't easy. When gay people and straight people and lesbians and transgender people came together and say that we deserve the same rights as a straight couple does, it wasn't easy. America, when women said we deserve the right to vote and until we get it, we're going to burn our bras and we're going to protest, it wasn't easy. America, when Abraham Lincoln sat there and tried to figure out whether or not he was going to make a choice to stand up against slavery and send this country to a civil war, it wasn't easy. In 1776, when our founders decided they were going to war against a nation that was their main bloodline, and they were going to war against them in the fight for freedom, it wasn't easy. And this conversation that we're having right now is not going to be an easy one. We all must admit, we all have biases. We all have a little bit of racism. Sadly, some of us hide behind our badges with that racism, and we use that racism to pillage and destroy communities. We use that racism to invoke fear amongst black men and amongst black mothers and amongst black fathers. But now is the time to fix it, America. How disgusted must we get before we decide we're going to have a conversation and fix it? How many tears does a mother have to cry before we decide we're going to have a conversation and fix it? How many funerals do we have to have when police officers unwarrantedly kill another black man until we decide we're going to fix it? America, the moment is now to fix it. When 6,000 people can meet in Washington and 60,000 people can march down the streets of New York City, when we could shut down, when we have seen people who would lay their bodies down in the middle of the street in a die-in, demanding justice. It's time to fix it, America. All across this country, we have seen action after nonviolent action demanding change, but yet some of us still choose to walk around with blinders on our eyes and say we live in a post-war society because we have a black man in the White House. But let me tell you something, society only became more racist when we had a black man in the White House, because those wearing their blinders said, well, there's a black man in the White House, so we can degrade the black guy in the poorhouse. America, let's have a real conversation about this here today, because you have those people who sit out there who wear blinders to the fact that we live in our society is more and more racist, it's more and more divided, we have more and more economic strife, we have poor publics, we have public schools that are underfunded, we have voting systems that are too broken. And because of all those things, we get to a situation where you have the death of Mike Brown, the death of Trayvon Martin, the death of Eric Garner, the death of Tamar Rice, and there's so many countless others. America, what I learned from my trip, this is the second trip I've taken to this area in Ferguson and St. Louis, is that we can end racial profiling if and when we choose to work together. And one thing I also saw there is that even though there was so much fear, there was so much distrust, and there was so much pain, I saw an ounce of optimism. I saw a seed of optimism. And if we can all pour water on that seed and help it germinate, America, we can turn that optimism into a tree that springs forth of freedom and justice, and a tree that when the rain falls down, justice drops off of its leaves. America, but we've got to make that choice today, and that choice means we have to have a tough and hard conversation. We've got to bring police into the room, and we've got to say, listen, some of your practices are wrong, whether it's jump outs in Washington, D.C., or it's smash and grabs in Ferguson. We've got to say that it's not okay for police departments and small municipalities to have tanks and tear gas and rubber bullets. America, we've got to say there's no way possible that every black man is a criminal. We have to say the reason why stop and frisk didn't work was because 120% people were stopped 120% of the time, meaning you stop people more and more and more and more and more. And when de Blasio made the choice to get rid of stop and frisk, crime in the city went down. Crime is not a black problem or a white problem. It's all of our problems, and we all believe that. There's not one person out there who will tell you they don't believe in law and justice and order. But at the same time, how can you have law, justice, and order when you have a broken criminal justice system? You have police who wear blinders, and you have a community who will turn a blind eye to the fact that brutality still exists in 2014. America, what we saw happen to Mike Brown is something that looked like a scene from out of a book or out of 1942. But too bad we're living in 2014. America, we can fix this. I'm telling you, because the next generation behind us, high school students, middle school students, elementary school students, are depending on us to fix this. And sadly, I got to tell you, I think baby boomers have done it. Baby boomers have caused a lot of this. I'm sorry, y'all. I love y'all, but it's true. So millennials, now it's our job to fix it. We need to run for office. We need to become elected officials. We need to vote. We need to stand up, and I tell you, we need to continue to peacefully protest until justice is truly had. We need to push our elected officials to do what we need them to do, to fix our communities, to fix our broken schools, to fix our broken job system in this country. We could all do it if we work together. Hey, listen, folks, I got to get out of here, but I'm telling you, we could do it if and when we choose to work together. To any act of injustice, any time there's injustice, we must act. We must speak out. It doesn't matter if it's a black injustice or a white injustice or a Hispanic injustice. It's an injustice to all of us. Good night, everybody.